Ta-da. All right. This is the third time we are doing this, and this time it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, I'm just going to do a little introduction. See, now my computer's made a noise. I'm going to do this little introduction because we will upload this so everyone can see it on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'm Shakti Sundari, and I'm here with Tara Love Perry. And we're going to be talking all about love, her work as a psychic, international speaker, her work in the I love you, me, I love you, comma, me method. And as a priestess of love, myself, of course, I'm all about this, and I'm eager to actually genuinely connect with you, Tara, and see what comes out of our sharing and our speaking. I'm excited about this. We've been trying to get this to happen for a while. And again, just to say for anyone watching this, my reason for doing this is I love speaking to people, and I love finding out about people, and I've been doing these interviews for some years. And in my own work with Women Awakening Shakti this year, I've been focusing on interviewing women especially, and the theme of self-love is really important as a part of the work that I do. But anyway, this is not about me, it's about you and you.
It's about all of us.
Because you're me.
Yeah. I love you, me, you. I love me, you.
We did, before we started, we just kind of realized even more, like the sort of mirroring that's going on, like with the hair up and then with the off the shoulder thing.
I actually pulled mine up because it was getting a bit like, so I'm like, no, be decent.
I quite like mine off.
Like, let's just take our clothes off now. We can do that. We can do the both look. There you go, balanced. Yeah, that's it.
So, yeah, off we go. There's something that happens when I do a live, which is when we started, I kind of was going to go into this big spiel, and then actually what happened was this impulse to just sit and be with you and with everyone who was showing up. And I do feel that now, but also I feel like that we did some breathing together, and you did this beautiful thing of just talking about the breath. Can you say a bit about that again?
Yeah, breathe and receive, I call it. Because, I mean, so many becauses. You know, I can talk about breath for weeks, literally. It's just the most important thing to be doing, and not doing breathing. Do like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Trying to calm themselves, trying to get centered. You see it a lot, right? You see it, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that there's another way, and it can work so much easier, and it actually resets everything in our bodies the right way around. Because as I was saying on the live, Shakti, our first nature is to receive. You know, when we're born, I like to remind people, and you know this, we all know this intrinsically in every cell of our body, that the very first thing we ever did, yeah, was to take a breath in, was to receive. Unconditional, completely unconditional, completely soft, completely trusting, completely open, unconditional receiving.
Yeah.
It's the very first thing we did, receive a breath. For some of us, it was quite traumatic though. And it can trigger those emotions. So the moment I take people into a workshop situation, or I say, breathe and receive your breath, not do it, just soften and trust and let go and just let it come in, immediately people's emotions start coming up.
Yeah, I can feel it.
I can feel it from you, right? You can feel it.
Yeah.
But actually, that's the very first thing we ever did, and it's our first nature, is to receive before we start giving and doing and serving and doing and being and, you know, getting all kind of, control freak about it. Our first nature was just to be completely passive and receive this gift of life that we've been given before anything else happens, before any agendas, before any intentions, before any practices of any kind, you know? And people get really caught up in that stuff, trying to find their way back to themselves, trying to find a way to connect. And to me, I'm just like looking and just going, I get it. I understand why it makes sense up here, and it can do nice things for your body, or, you know, you can control your breath for certain experiences. But if you just really want to connect to your source, you want to connect to you just want to de-stress and get peaceful really quickly.
Yeah.
You just receive your breath. That's it. You just stop and receive. And you start letting everything recalibrate the right way up. So it turns everything around on its head. And it can make people a little bit like, oh, I'm not, lose control, stop being in charge from my head. Yes. If you want to be happy, yes. So it's like it's a let go. It's a just, trust.
I can feel my emotion rising as you speak all of that. I can feel that, because I know this is happening right now because we're talking, so I always get a little bit, there's a little bit of anxiety that happens around my heart and my throat as I go into a conversation with someone, so it's there at the moment. So I know it will relax, but it's that invitation, and it's so simple, but actually I can feel in myself, so I know this will be with others, the fear and the little bit of resistance and the kind of
and the yeah, but no, the
is it really that simple?
No, it's not like, it's like, yes, it is very challenging, because I tell you what, life is simple. And we're talking about self-love today, and love is simple. Love is ridiculously simple. It's like water simple. It's just simple. And if we're doing things, being clever, being spiritual, being, been doing my work for so long, and I've got all these things under my belt, and it can just be a little bit like, come back. Where have you gone? Come back. It's simple. The breath does not discriminate between anybody. It's not for clever people. It's just there for all of us in the most sublime and humble way. And it's the ultimate teacher. I think if you want to know anything about life, turn to the actual source of existence itself that's coming to us. We don't have to reach for it. We don't have to ascend or transcend anything to be breathed. We actually just have to do the opposite. We just have to go drop in, like, just put that down. Get humble, get open, get flushed through, get cleaned out, and just be in that waterfall of your own spirit, of that existence itself, and just let life do us. Let life do me.
Thank you. I feel like you're speaking right to me as well as everyone else who's going to watch this.
I think it's true for all of us, Shakti.
It's humbling, and like you said, the word humility, and also to me it feels vulnerable, like the opening, because we're so used to not being that open.
Yeah.
But also what I love about what you just said is to kind of cut through all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Which I'm involved in myself as well, in all the methods and this and that, but I just love that it's so simple and it cuts through any pretense, any hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. Well, that's what life does that. So if we can learn from life, and I'm not claiming to know it all, I'm not going to be like, we're all in the same boat, and I'm not saying anything like that to dismiss anybody's thing. I grew up with this stuff, Shakti. I was born and raised in this stuff. I've been in it all my life, and there's really good stuff, so I'm not dissing it. There's also a lot of total crap, so like everything, there's a lot of stuff that you just you know, are better off not doing. But
Like
there's
what?
there's I'm not going to name anything, but there is some really good stuff out there, you know. There's some really good stuff, and people mean well, and they've got some, you know, some stuff that works. But it depends what your outcome is. It depends what you want. And if you just want peace, and if you just want deep connection, and you want reality, and you want truth, then you've got to come back to what actually that is, and not what we think it is. And that is humbling every single time. I'm humbled all the time, like all the time. And I'm always learning. We're always doing it together. It's just that I've noticed that the breath is the most incredible teacher. Love is the most incredible teacher. And you have to be with that breath, and you have to be with love, what actually love is, in order to learn from it and be shaped and be, you know, designed and created in that environment of love and truth. And we don't, you know, love and truth doesn't happen from the mind. It doesn't happen from ideas and ideals and, you know, good intentions. It doesn't. It that's where we can get really, you know, off track.
Yeah. There's so much that branches out from what you've just said. I don't even know where to start. Like, so tell me a little bit about, you talked about your family and growing up in this whole environment. You know, I read on your website that you grew up listening to a spiritual master. So say a little bit about this, about the context for you and what sort of birthed you.
Yeah. Shall I tell it? Do you want me to quickly tell the story that we did on the live earlier about the being dead part, or should we just
amazing, because that's just so mind-blowing.
I'll do it quickly. Yeah. So I had quite a different. So basically, my parents in 1971 moved from Belfast to London. 1972 or 1971, at that point, they discovered a child guru. A bunch of people from London had gone to India to get him and bring him to London, because the father before him was a master who'd walked all over India and spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. And this boy was 13 years old at the time. And his name is Prem Rawat. That's his actual name. But back then he was known as Guru Maharaji. But there was loads of Guru Maharajis, but he was called Guru Maharaji. And my mum and dad were, you know, building an ashram for him, and the whole thing was about inner peace. Maharaji gives this technique of turning within, putting your focus, putting your attention back into yourself, plugging in and experiencing something within you, experiencing you. And that's what he used to talk about. And so my mum and dad picked this up before I was even around. They were building an ashram, and I was created whilst they were still, you know, in the middle of doing this ashram. And so then when my mum was pregnant with me, they were on their way to an event or back from an event or somewhere, and they're all really high. There's a bunch of hippies in this van, all really high. And my dad was in the front with the guys, and my mum was in the back with the girls. And the van was crashed and turned on its side. And so my mum was thrown out of the back doors of this transit van and landed on her head. And they took her to hospital. And there was not a scratch on her. She was fine, like not a scratch. But they did say, you know, she said, "How's the baby?" And they said, "What baby? If you were pregnant, we can't find, there was nothing there." They, you know, the little ultrascan, the sound scan things, what are they called?
Ultrasound.
Yeah, ultrasound.
Yeah.
And so they were doing, and obviously they didn't find any heartbeat, they didn't find a pulse.
So how old were you? How many months were you then?
Apparently, my mum said about 3.5, 4 months pregnant. So early stages. And then she went to her regular hospital sometime after that, day or two later, and they said, "No, we can't find anything. You've lost the baby." And actually, she said they were trying to give her, you know, like pressure, like, "You've got to have this removed," and she was like, "No."
Right. These days they would make you.
Yeah, and they said, "Look, you're just in shock. You don't know what you're doing." And she was like, "No." And so she was in this beautiful space of really trusting, you know, in that grace, in that high space of this being with this master, with this guru. So anyway, that's, you know, that's how my life started. I was, you know, kind of not really around for almost 2 months, and then after 11 months, I was born. So I, you know, for a period of time and almost 2 months, that they had no They had no heartbeat from me. I wasn't there, but I obviously was. So my whole upbringing was really based in that same element of that trust. Everything was done in trust. Everything. We didn't, even where the money came from and where we got food, sometimes it just was in that space of total trust. And so practically on a material level, I wasn't very grounded. There wasn't a lot of reality of this level, because I was, talked to by my father from the age of 4 or 5 years old about Edgar Cayce prophecies and about how the whole system would collapse, and how I didn't really exist, and that everything was an illusion, and that nothing was real. So I was like, I'm 4 or 5 years old. Nothing is real. Okay. So I was, I was very like all kids, we're wide open, right? We're so wide open. We're picking up on everything much more than grown-ups would give us credit for. And I just felt like a lot of the time I was just in that light. I was quite a spaced out little person. I would just go off and I'd just be in that light. And I remember even saying to my mum and dad when I was 4, look, I'm not going to die. I'm just going to turn into light. And they were like, okay. So that was my upbringing. I grew up in that whole space. And then when I was about 11, 12, my mum started training as a homeopath. By the time I was 13, we moved to Wales, and my mum and dad had set up a healing centre from our house. And this is back in the early 80s, right? Mum's a homeopath, dad's doing body techniques, Bowen techniques, spinal touch therapy, kinesiologies, learning all these techniques. And so our house was a healing centre where we had hundreds of people coming all the time to get well. So, and in this environment of knowledge, in this environment of meditation, grew up vegetarian my whole life. My mum was doing yoga when I was a little girl. So it was like, way back when it was all not normal. So it's been quite a different upbringing.
Indeed. And as you talk about that, I'm thinking how, 2 things I'm thinking. Did you feel any mismatch with society around you?
Yeah, big one.
You're describing something which sounds so idyllic and so filled with light. Like, so have you had any problems in life then? Because it all sounds just so beautiful.
How long have you got? You can bet I had problems. No, exactly. I mean, my childhood was incredible. My parents were, we had satsang in our house. There was people would come around our house every week. We would light candles. There would be an arti tray. I don't know if you know what an arti tray is, and everybody would be talking truth. Satsang was being in the company of truth. My mum would sing. It was just gorgeous. I would be taken to see Maharaji, and I would just be like, I don't want to go to the kids area. I want to be with Maharaji. I used to just love being in his company, because to me, he spoke the truth. I don't remember what he said. I just wanted to be with him. And, so my childhood on that level was incredible. We had this amazing community, urban community, loads of people all around who were devotees as well. And all those kids grew up together, and it was magical. However, on the flip side, and this is something I share regularly, I remember, distinctly around that same time of me telling my mum and dad I was going to just not die and turn into light, I really remember this distinct feeling of feeling that light, feeling that love. I was sitting on the floor in the living room when I was a little girl in this space of light, and feeling that it just felt warm and golden and unconditional, and just, these are words I can put on it now. And then seeing my parents, who I knew loved me and I knew loved each other, but it felt so different and it felt disembodied. I didn't feel it. I knew it. It was like seeing it in front of me. I knew it was there, but I couldn't feel it. It's like there was a great big gap between the love that was human love and what I was experiencing, and let's say divine love or spiritual love. And for me, I really recognized that gap, and it felt kind of bipolar. It was a bit like, well, this one feels real, but this human one doesn't feel real. And I feel like people aren't telling me the truth, and I feel like it's not really true, and I feel like it's a bit, and I started to, as I grew up, started to feel like people were lying to me, because I could see that they weren't telling me the truth.
Right.
You know that everything's fine.
Yeah.
And you just know, and that's a kind of a simple version of it. But when people are telling you something that they believe, but you can see isn't true.
Yeah.
And children are so perceptive. We're all so tuned in. We're born psychic. I mean, that word's a little bit, it's got some weird connotations to it now, but we're all super empathic. We're all super clairvoyant. We're all super sentient. We pick stuff up.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like this incredible dissonance between what was the human world and human love, where it was all about giving and serving, and all about being in service. Nothing to do with having anything for ourselves. And materialism wasn't a good thing. And being in our bodies wasn't about being in the body. It was about just being in that space inside, and kind of denouncing the world and denouncing society and denouncing money and denouncing,
Right.
And it sounds really good in theory, but it was actually really painful and really horrible. And it caused me a lot of problems about not wanting to actually exist in the world. It was like, well, what's the point in being here then?
Right.
If, as me in a body, what is the point in me being here if all I'm going to do is go back to my source? Because I kept wanting to die, Shakti. I kept wanting to take myself out and go back to spirit, go back to source, because the world just felt really messed up. And it was just too much. So I got sick. I started getting really ill at about 14 and totally suicidal and didn't want to be here. So it feels like a massive contradiction. I'm suicidal, living in a healing center where all these people are getting healed, and I don't want to be here anymore.
Right. But
I think a lot of people will relate to that. I think a lot of young people now will relate to that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really important for you to share, because I'm sure that when people look at you now and see who you are and how you're being and what you're bringing, it would be very easy to project this notion of absolute perfection. Oh, well, she's never had, that kind of thing onto you. And I'm sure when you do your workshops, you talk about this stuff. And of course, as you speak, it's like that's the kind of the pain or the ache or the heartache of separation that we all know.
Yeah.
That we're all like, that's the reason. Well, I speak personally, that's the reason I started searching and doing all the stuff that I've been doing and trying to find, ways to address what was essentially that heartache.
You just needed to come back home. And what's home? And we go looking for home, right? We go looking for that place where we recognize the feeling, where we feel loved, where we feel held, where we feel safe, seen, where we belong. And we spend our lives looking everywhere for it, and looking in everybody else's eyes for it, and looking in, jobs for it, or relationships for it, or whatever, drink bottles for it, or whatever, we're looking everywhere for it. And everyone's heart is broken at the end of the day, to some degree or other. Even people that, can say, oh, my parents were loving. Well, my parents were loving too, parents were loving. A lot of people, we are loved, generally speaking, as best as we can be loved by our parents. But if we don't know how to love, and we're all finding our way, and conditional love gets passed on generation to generation, where we're all searching. We're all lost souls with broken hearts who didn't get loved properly by our parents the way that we felt loved, in that place that we all remember as home, that we're trying to get back to. We all remember it, and we can feel it here, right? We have that sense, which just, it's like that Bisto ad, when we were little, the Bisto ad, and then they smell the waft and they're like, But it's like we're following that invisible waft. There's something that we're going, my senses are telling me there is this place called home where I belong. Where is it? And it is. And the thing is, where I was very blessed is because I always knew where that was. I never had to go looking. I never didn't know who I was. I never had to go searching for the truth, because here was I in the presence of this master, and that's all he talked about all day long. And it wasn't, even before I was old enough to understand his words, the feeling, I was just in that company, and here was a human being the energy that I recognized from that spirit connection, that source connection. So that was an incredible gift, to have that much guidance always. And it was a validation, it was an affirmation that yes, what I was feeling was real, and I would just never had to go looking. So I was very lucky like that. I did have to go looking for other things though.
Like what? And how then? Because you say that you came to that place in your teenage years of like feeling suicidal and depressed and ill. So then what has been your way of, I'm sure it's a long story, but
I'll try and make it short,
of integrating, that connection that you've always had, that knowing with the body, with the life.
Yeah. With life down here on this level. Yeah. Because that was the biggest gap. That was the scariest gap. So this is where the I Love You Me method came in. So being intuitive, clairvoyant, sensitive, psychic, empathic, I didn't even realize how much until someone pointed it out to me when I was 29. I'd had 2 children by that time. They were both very little, they were both born at home, both extremely blissful births, really gorgeous home births, because I was just in that beautiful place of trust, so I was able to give birth naturally, painlessly, blissed out of my mind to these 2 beautiful little boys. And so one of them, he was only about 1 year old at this point, and somebody came and they validated me. They gave me that, they were like, Tara, you can do something, there's something about you. And this person was a mirror for me to be able to realize that my empathic, intuitive awareness was actually really strong, and that it was real and I could believe in it. That it was actually a real thing. I wasn't just seeing imagined things. And so him validating me was the beginning. And that's a really, really crucial thing, is to be seen for who you are. It's a bit like missing the elephant in the room a lot of the time. You're going, why can't people see this about me? Or we don't recognize it ourselves until somebody else recognizes it, and we go, oh, so he validated my sensitivities as being real. And so after that, I just practiced. He was like, Tara, you've got to do this. You're really good at this. So I started giving readings to people, just reading their energy of what I could see and feel and hear and everything, like being in your aura, and your soul is essentially what I was doing. I was tapping into people's soul records and just reading from the soul record directly. And so after doing that for many years and pushing it away and not wanting to do it because it was really weird, and I was like, how am I ever going to earn money from doing this? But eventually I kept doing it, and as I was doing it, I was like, okay, I need a solution, because people have got all this trauma. They've got all this stuck trauma. They've got all these stuck memories and stuck energies from what we would call different lifetimes or different timelines or different experiences that have happened in the soul. Yeah. And if you have a bad experience and it just stays there as a negative, as a disharmonious vibration in the field, it doesn't just get better over time, it stays like that, and then it has a knock-on effect everywhere else, and it starts to create a dissonance in the field, which is a dissonance in the mental field, the emotional field, the physical body, right? And a dissonance between spirit and earth, separation happens, death happens, illness happens when that dissonance becomes too big. So I was like, how can I help people? So I started getting the answers coming through of how to help people to close that gap, to transform the dissonance into harmony. And at the beginning, I called it birthing into the light body, because when I was doing this work with people, they started landing their spirit, coming down, 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 descending, not ascending, descending into the physical form, landing into this physical third dimensional reality, and anchoring in, and then harmony was happening. And I could see people's energy literally physically changing in front of my eyes, and then becoming more golden, more supreme, more in touch with themselves, more anchored into their destiny, and doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, and being who they were supposed to be being, and essentially cleaning out all the programming. And eventually I'd been teaching this, and then it took me ages, Shakti, to realize that this was for me to use. And I'm trying to help everybody else. And then I realized, hold on a minute, I've got a skill here and I'm not using it for myself. And that's when the penny dropped. And at this point, I'd already half written a book about it. So I continued to write the book. I started to do the method. I started to give it a bit more structure and call it 7 steps to self-love. And it became known as I Love You Me, because everywhere I went, people were like, there's the I Love You Me lady. There's I Love. So it was like, okay, it's called I Love You Me. That's what it's called, because that's how people remembered it. And it was this method so that I didn't have to be the one somehow being the divine being, the perfect being that would bring harmony to everything by touching this person or saying the right things, and then they were healed through my magic. Right. I was like, I don't want that. Ugh. That's not me. That's not what I'm all about. I was like, let this person, you know, I'm independent. I'm an Aquarius. I'm fiercely independent. I'm like, these people, they need to have it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of in collaboration with a being that I can tell you, it was, I don't know if people believe this, but another one of my crazy stories, but I was being taught by Archangel Michael for 2 years this method about how a person can actually bring that harmony between their spiritual self mm-hmm. and their physical self, and close all the gaps and bring all this harmony into harmony through the power of unconditional love, and by doing it oneself, like being the one to do the job for yourself, and not being dependent on anybody else to do that for you. Not a church, not a preacher, not a healer, not a mother, not a father, not a nothing. Totally independent, self-sustainable, unconditional love relationship that very much includes the physical, emotional, mental, all the layers to the spiritual, the whole being. That's what saved me. That's what saved me, just by doing that myself.
It's really music to my ears to hear the emphasis, the accent on the embodiment of it, because that's what I'm all about myself. And so it's just resonates so much that it's not about the whoop.
It's a relief, right? We go, oh, thank God. I don't have to climb anything. I don't, you know, it's such an effort. It's too much effort. I mean, even when we think about talking to spirit or God, we look up. Mm-hmm. I used to do that. Take me up. I don't want to be here. Take me out of my body. And it's all about up, up, out, out. And it takes us more away from the absolute simple truth. Come back this way. Get down off the high horse, come down out of the control tower, you know, get down into we are here for a divine reason in this physical form. And what I notice is something extraordinary happens when a soul starts to come into harmony with this physical body, and their spirit starts to really land and get comfortable in the physical. There's more and more of this other awakening shift that happens. It's like that, well, it's that end of separation. The spirit and the physical merge to create something else. Mm-hmm. Something else. Right? And then we're not dancing between this reality, that reality, this way, that way, this is right, that's wrong, this, you know, good, bad. It becomes something else, this other dimensional, that doesn't sound right, but this other quality of feeling, this quality of existence starts happening on a very cellular DNA level, you know, it's right there. And I would say that's true ascension, if you want to call it that word, because it's like you open the doors inside, and when you open those doors, another reality starts coming into play. And that is heaven on earth. That is sublime. That's, you can't imagine that stuff. And you know, you can't mantra your way into it. It actually has to, you know, you have to do it. You have to. Sorry, forgive me. I get a little bit cheeky. I'm sorry.
I love it. So as you've been talking, like everything is so resonant, and you know, as we're talking, in my body, I'm feeling the energy of what you're saying as well. It's like this beautiful, cosmic, blissful field is being created. And actually, I'm kind of getting more and more into that space of where it's hard to think anything at all. I wrote down something. So, and I know, again, having looked at your website as well, because you speak on there, I don't know if this was you speaking very personally about your own life experience or kind of taking the common experience of us all, but I wrote down, why does shit happen then, right? Because we've all experienced some, I mean, I know I have, again, speaking personally, like 2 years ago, abusive relationship, for example. And on your blog, one of your blogs I read, you spoke about things like penniless, homeless, abuse, bullying, and rape. That's big stuff. It's dark stuff. So can you say something about that? Like, so why does this shit happen then? And in your own personal experience, as much as you want to, how that's been a part of your
and all of those things have been a part of my experience. So the thing is, right, it's, you know, the name of my academy is called Live in Light Academy, Lila, Lila, Lila. And what's wonderful, because that's another story how I got that name, but anyway, Lila, as you're probably aware, means the divine game or the divine play. And that's how I experience things. That we incarnate into these absolutely perfectly sculptured, perfectly designed, incredible miracle bodies to have this third dimensional experience, to be as, and this is what I've learned in soul reading, to be as dense as we could ever possibly be in terms of energetic density, you know, vibrational density, and yet still be able to connect to the oneness and remember who we are. So yes, there's amnesia, yes, we forget, but there's an inbuilt default there. We have a default to actually remembering and returning to our source, but not by leaving the body to return to source, but return to source and remember who we are, whilst being as apparently far away and human and dense as we could ever possibly be. It's like if you could stretch time, which is what's happened, so that we have a past and a future. Right? There's only now, there's only isness, there's only right now, and it's been stretched out. So we've got an apparent past and an apparent future, and we've had our reality stretched out. So it feels like we're solid and dense, and then truth and light and love is all over here on the opposite end of the scale, and we've got to somehow get there. But it's not. It's like it's an apparent separation. It's not a real separation. It's apparent. We experience it because that's what we've been designed to do. And it's this giant game of hide and seek. Maraji used to talk about it. Said it's like we're playing hide and seek with ourselves.
Yeah.
But we're looking for ourselves where we're not. And when we're looking for ourselves where we're not, we're getting really upset because we've been doing it for a bloody long time, and we keep coming back around again and again and again. You know, it's not karma's a bitch and you have to come back because you failed. It's like, because this is how energy works. There's a much bigger game happening where divine source, divine energy wants to know itself by first having an experience of that which it apparently isn't. You know, We can say, you know, divinity is light, but I'm not divine, I'm just human. No, that's not true.
Yeah.
It's all divine. It's divinity having a human experience, and divinity wants to know itself by experiencing that which it isn't. But that's still itself, that's still divinity. It sounds, it's a funny thing to, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And it's so simple we can't get our heads around it, and so it sounds complicated saying it in language. But essentially we're looking for ourselves where we're not. And by doing that, we get into all kinds of problems, and we get really hurt, and we bang our toes, and we smash our heads, and we get upset, and we get frustrated, and we want out, and we've had enough, you know, and we start manifesting symptoms of that because we start saying, I've had enough, I'm out, I don't want to be here. The cells respond, the body responds, the energy responds. You know, it's like everything in life is like, your wish is my command, you know. The creator source energy says, your wish is my command. What do you want?
Right. So when someone says that, even though, of course, I know that, sometimes I get like really scared. It's like, shit, I just had a bad thought. Shit, I just felt depressed for a day.
But we work in progress. We're like children in a nursery. You know, this, I really see it like this, and it might annoy some people, but it's like, we're like toddlers still figuring out how to walk. We're not finished incarnating. We're not finished gestating into who we can be. We're just still in the children mode. We're trying to figure it out still. We're still falling down and not being able to do it. But you know what? The wonderful thing about divinity, let's just call it that, divine source, is it's kind of, the world is a baby-proofed place. It's been designed specifically, Mummy and Daddy, God and Gaia, designed it specifically so that this whole place is child-proofed. We think we're doing damage, and we are, but it's a bit like the 2-year-old is doing damage in your house, but you've got the stair gate on, you've got the fire alarms, they're in place, you've got the things in the plug socket so they can't put their fingers in and blow themselves up. You know, it's baby proof, but it looks like they're making a huge mess and destroying the place, and isn't it awful, and what a massive mess. So whenever I check in, and honestly, I've done thousands and thousands of readings, and I get the same information back again and again. It's like, look, kids, you're good to go. We've baby-proofed the place. You're figuring out who you are. We're here all the time, nurturing you, loving you, supporting you, guiding you. You've just got to receive it. God damn it, you know, just receive. We've forgotten how to receive. So we just start receiving again. Let go. Oh my God, this is, it's all okay. There's a lot more in place than we even begin to realize, because we're so stressed out trying to figure it out. We've forgotten, and we're not seeing how much is being given. And when we just stop and go back to our first nature of receiving, right, you can feel that. You can feel that, Shakti. Oh my goodness, what we're trying to manifest and what we're trying to get by being good and saying our affirmations and writing out, you know, wish lists and our gratitude journals or whatever. We don't actually have to do any of that. We don't. We just have to go, okay, life knows what I want. It's all been set up. My soul chose this already. It's already been pre-given, pre-decided, pre-sent, right? It's present right here, right now. It's been pre-sent for us just to receive what's already been given. And if we can remember to do that and stop having our 2-year-old tantrums and throwing bricks at each other and, you know, smashing stuff, and we can just it sounds simplistic, but that's how I like to see things in simple terms. It's just easy.
Well, it makes sense. I feel the truth of what you're saying totally resonates. And of course, you know, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, try it.
As in, what you're living, what you're experiencing, what people who work with you, workshops experience too, right?
Yeah, and trust me, I haven't got it perfect. Okay, just because I can see it in other people and I can do the soul readings and I can see it and I get the messages, it's another thing embodying it and doing that when we've got thousands of years of conditioning of being really in the dark ages and or just amnesia and forgetting. Yeah. And being conditioned with all this other programming. And really, I think one of the biggest roles, if you like, of my being in this lifetime right now is come in and clean up. It's just to come in and help clean up and go, right, set change, everybody. Let's just change the scenery. Okay, let's just sweep up over here and let's do some cleaning up over there. And okay, because there's a new thing coming, and I know what's coming, and I feel like I've come from that place, and I'm like, guys, I know what's coming, so we just have to, get ready and let's do some cleaning up. And this I Love You Me method is it came from the angels, and the angels are the best cleaners. They know how to clean up, they know how to heal, they know how to reset and put us back into that frequency, put us back into that place of instant gratitude just because you're breathing and not because you wrote a list. That instant harmony because you're receiving, you're just receiving and you're being in the right place. And then they give us this little method to help clean up all that stuff. And I'm using it all the time. I have to, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I'm not one of these, I'm perfect, follow me.
All right. Thank you so much for,
look at me, I'm same as you. And I've screwed up plenty, and I continue to screw up, but I love myself anyway. And I know that I'm loved, and I know that there is something so incredibly exquisitely beautiful happening, and it's very real to me now. It's not an up there away from me thing or a separate thing. It's very real in my body on a daily basis. And it's just about that remembering, oh yeah, remember to receive. Yeah, and I've come through a lot of things, all that nasty stuff, that list that you said earlier, the horrible relationships, the abuse, the rape, the everything. I've had that too. And I've, mental health, nearly lost the plot a couple of times, really just couldn't deal with life. And using this I Love You Me as just heal, it just heals everything. It's just love, it's just love applied to oneself. And it's unconditional giving and receiving of love for oneself, and it just heals everything, and it's really beautiful, and it gets very simple. It's like that's all you need.
So beautiful.
Yeah. But I love talking about it because it's a wonderful reminder. It's like I get the reminder myself, and I get to share it with others. And I don't think for me, that's the most beautiful thing. Like I can talk about this all day with everybody. It's the most beautiful thing to be sharing is love. Is that who we really are? Take all the masks off, take all the walls down. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're perfect how you are. You don't need fixing. There isn't a best version of you. You are incredible exactly how you are. And now you just have to move in to you. Just move into your home. Just come back. Move into you, and you're incredible.
It's brilliant because it's like you're channeling stuff. It's just coming right in. It's brilliant. Thank you, everyone who's there. Yeah, thank you. I just got a couple more questions. So again, I know that you've worked with thousands of people and you travel the world doing this, right? So you have and we've also worked with all levels of people, and I know again what you're saying proves to me your authenticity, and it's not about the famous people that you've worked with. However, you have worked with some really high profile people, and I'm curious about, although I guess we have touched upon it, what you see as the common thread, having traveled so much, having worked with so many people of all different levels and strata.
Yeah.
What must be very clear to you now is like, oh my goodness, if only they could see that it's just this or this, or if only, there's, that we are all the same, that there is just this common thread of forgetting. Like, what do you see so clearly, and what, from your experience of working with so many people and traveling and being in different cultures and societies as well?
Yeah. Well, I was just recently in Pakistan, so I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how I ended up there. One person told another person, and this person was hosting a future summit, a 2-day summit, and there was, government people there, CEOs, heads of departments, senators, you know, all these kinds of different people, because Pakistan's been in a horrible place. It's really had a lot of trouble, and they're beautiful people over there, really, really amazingly beautiful, kind, sweet, loving people. But their country's been in a really horrible place. They're really suffered. So there was this summit to help get Pakistan back on its feet. There was a lot of talk about business and innovation and tech and investment and blah, you know, and I find myself, I'm invited to speak at this thing, and I find myself on stage talking to a room full of about 800-900 people who were all there in their suits with their company and their, you know, and I thought, this is a little bit of a risk, but I'm going to do it because I just trust that it doesn't matter what environment I'm in. Yeah. All of these people need to hear exactly the same thing, right? That same one thing. Mm-hmm. That the love that they're looking for is inside of them. And that absolutely everybody is looking for love. We need to be loved. And it's not the pursuit of money. It's not the pursuit of power. It's not the pursuit of, you know, it is that pursuit of validation. See me, hear me, recognize me. I matter. I'm here. And that's part of the being loved thing, is like, I see you, you know. People are wanting to be loved in the way that they haven't yet ever been fully loved, you know, with the right words at the right time, by the right person in the right place, with the right empathy, with the right touch, with the right look, with the right, you know, we just want it so it just clicks with us and we go, yes, I get it, I feel it, it's real, right? Rather than an abstract over there sort of thing. So everyone, and in that place of being loved, everything comes online. Our beauty comes online, our confidence comes online, our truth starts coming out of our mouth. We start opening up, we start being who we're innately designed to be. And without it, we're like these tightly closed little, you know, rosebuds that start acting like robots. And I'm in this room full of 800-900 people, and it's all about business, and it's all mind, head. It's all really heady. The whole thing's heady. And I get everybody to stand up and open their arms and close their eyes and then wrap their arms around themselves and say, hello, me. Thank you for being here, me. I love you, me. And take a deep breath and breathe, right? And I'm just like, I'm looking around the room, and I couldn't believe everybody actually did it. I was like, wow, that worked. Oh my God, I'm not being thrown out. And at the end, people were coming up to me. Loads of people came up to me and said, oh my God, I had to hold back the tears because my boss was sitting next to me and I couldn't let it out. And I was like, oh, you know, that's all it is we think we're in an environment where we'll be judged and we can't let ourselves feel that love and that peace. So we shut it down and we block it out and we control it. But the funny thing is, the boss next to that person was feeling exactly the same thing. I can't cry with tears of relief and joy and everything that I've just found myself because my employee is standing next to me. And we all have this idea that we can't be ourselves because the person next to us won't let us. And it's not true. Yeah. Everyone's desperate. It's this giant hide and seek game. It's like, hello. So yeah, I just like doing, you know, I'm doing a live event in a few weeks actually. And I just love doing these live things, you know, because I've got books and material and everyone can, you know, find out for themselves. But when we do the live stuff, it's like you realize you can let go, you are safe, you can feel loved, and it's easy. And it's so intoxicating, it's so beautiful. And when you're doing it in a place with loads of other people, it's just like self-love becomes communal. That sounds a bit saucy, but it's not. Self-love, because if everyone's tuned in, tapped into the love and bathing themselves in it, like washing themselves, all the places that they thought were dark or dirty or bad or wrong, and you start bathing all of those places in the love and receiving it and embodying it, and you turn around and you're in an environment full of other people doing that, it's quite something. It really is. And that just I just get so excited. I'm like, let's do that again. That was really good. So yeah, common thread, everybody wants to be loved. That's it, end of story.
Yeah I remember actually from Is it Louise Hay in her book? I think she says somewhere in the introduction there, like every problem that anybody has, whether it's health, poverty, you know, anything, it all basically comes back down to a lack of self-love. She says that in there somewhere.
Does she? I'm going to go and find it, because my mum had that on the bookshelf since I was a little girl. So it's very familiar to me, but I don't think I've actually ever read it, you know. I know my mom just would tell me what was in the book. I didn't read the book. I think I'll go and find that line. It's true. It's totally true. Love yourself and your problems go away. Love is the ultimate thing, right? It's where we come from. It's where we want to go to. It's what we look for everywhere. And we're like the musk deer that's looking everywhere for the smell of the musk and bashing its head in frustration. It can't find the source of the smell, but it's coming from itself.
So Tara, if someone watches this and they're in a deep dark place and what you're saying sounds so beautiful and yet so far from where they are right now, what is the first thing they can do? One thing
they can do that. Because if you want to stay stuck, stop breathing. If you want to stay in your squalid emotions and live in that inner feeling of horribleness, like you said, living in your shit, if you want to stay living in your shit, then just stop breathing and stay up here in this little loop here. And you can feel it. I can feel it now. If when someone's in their shit, they get tight in the jaw, they get tight under here in the throat, they get tight at the back of the tongue, they get tight in the throat, tight in the chest. It's control. Ooh. Yeah. Like putting a cork in the bottle. I'm going to keep my emotions in me and I'm going to suffer, because suffering gets us something. Suffering eventually is all suffering is a cry for help, all of it. It's someone recognize that I need love and love me. Like, or I'm going to get worse. Right. So we hold on to it because we're waiting for somebody else to do it for us, because we're still that little kid looking for mummy and daddy to do it, looking for God to do it, looking for the angels to come and do it, looking for somebody to love us enough to come and do it. And we have to ask ourselves, would I be willing to love myself enough to stop suffering and do step one, which is breathe. And stop suffering. And it is that simple. And people go, it can't be that simple. I can prove it to you. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And you breathe. You take the cork out of the bottle. You start letting everything come out. Energy in motion. You let the emotion move. Open the new doors. Clean out the old.
Did you say open the noodles?
Open the noodles. No, open the new doors inside. Yeah, open the noodles. open your inner noodles. Open. Open the doors. It's like when you have to make room for the breath. You have to expand. You have to soften so that you open. I'm doing this. You don't need to do that every time you breathe, but it's like I'm impersonating my inner self as I expand and release and let go of everything that I'm closing in and holding on to, and my suffering, that I believe that this is true and this reality is true, and just and it's like a refresh. Just let the breath in and you'll get cleaned.
So it feels to me that in that doing, or that allowing, I should say, not doing, there would be a release that happens.
And when you put all the tools in the bag, when you use all of the things that we do to show somebody else we love them, like we say it for a start, we look at them, we touch them, we listen to them, we empathize with them, all the things that we do to love somebody else, we just need to do to ourselves. It sounds so stupid and simple, but it's true. You just go, hello, me. Oh my God, you're validated instantly. Me, I exist, I'm real. Hello, me. I love you, me.
I love you, me.
And we got to practice taking the walls down and letting ourselves receive that, letting it sink in. And it becomes a self-fulfilling, self-sustaining revolution of love right there.
So beautiful.
It's actually easy. I just think, I want to bring more love to the world. I wanted more love in the world when I was a little girl, so that I could exist, so that I could be happy. And so that's why I'm doing it. I want there to be more love in the world, because it makes me happy. The more love I'm around, the more people in love around me, the happier, I love it. It's brilliant. So, purely selfishly, I just want there to be more love in the world, so that I'm happy, and then that, and I want to be happy, the happiest I can be in my life. And so a world full of happy, loved up people, and not fake loved up, but genuinely deep self-loved up, connected, loved up. That's the world I'm joining in to create. And I just think if we all loved ourselves, really, there wouldn't be any problems. So I'm just on a really fun mission to see how many people I can help love themselves in this life, and we can all help each other. So it's not just me, it's like you learn it and then you teach someone else, and they learn it and they teach someone else, and we can just have this massive self-evolution. And it can happen really fast, and it's not difficult. It's a no-brainer.
That's the wonderful thing. It's all wonderful. Listen, I'm gonna wrap up now. We've been talking for a long time, and we could talk forever.
I know, but thank you. It's been brilliant getting all of this and sharing it with you.
So much here, so much. I know you've got an event coming up, and we'll post the links to that underneath the video.
Yeah, and Shakti, please come be my guest.
Oh, I'd love to
come and sit down the front and hang out with me, and that'll be lovely. And and anybody wants to come, there's actually an early bird booking now, and there's a limited amount of early bird seats, and I released it 2 days ago. So if you want an early bird seat, you need to kind of hop in there now and book it now, and then the price goes up when those seats have run out. So now is a really good time for people to book that.
Yeah, taraloveperry.com, or is it .co.uk? .com, and the events.
Actually, I've got to put it on my website. It's actually on a different site. I will. Thank you for reminding me. I'll put it on the website. We'll post the link for you underneath.
Yeah. All right. So blessings to everyone who's watching this and will watch it back. Gratitude to you, Tara, and all of the masters and angels who've been speaking through you to me and to everyone else. I feel really grateful, really blessed and touched and inspired.
It's an absolute pleasure and privilege. I love it. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing, Shakti, and having this beautiful connection. It's really wonderful. Thank you.